Hello, friends. It's Lauren Bernick. I am wishing you a very happy Thanksgiving from the bottom of my heart to yours. Today, we are going to have a rerun of one of my favorite episodes. It was actually the first episode from season 1 that I did with my dear friend Lisa Rice, and it was Jane and Ann Esselstyn. If you have not listened to this, you simply must. Jane and Ann are powerhouses, and they talk so beautifully about aging well. They are a mother-daughter duo, and Jane is 57 or 58, and Ann is 88, and Ann is somebody who I aspire to be. She's incredible. The conversation is funny and touching and at times hysterical. Anyway, so please give a listen and have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And we will be back with a new episode next week.
I don't think about age. We're not aging like badasses. We're living like badasses. I love it.
I'm Lauren. And I'm Lisa. And we're flipping the script about growing older. Our guests have been influencers since before that was even a thing. Welcome to the Anti-Aging Podcast.
Welcome to Age Like a Badass Mother. You may be familiar with our two amazingly warm and energetic guests today, Jane and Ann Esselstyn. Jane is a nurse, researcher, mother, and teacher who champions women, family, and community. She created the recipe section of the New York Times #1 bestseller, Plant Strong, and Engine 2 7-Day Rescue by her brother, Rip Esselstyn. You have to Google Jane Esselstyn, Fat Causes Type 2 Diabetes. You will finally understand what type 2 diabetes is. Ann Esselstyn, mother of Jane, is a force. You may have seen the video of Ann schlepping a car tire tied around her waist up and down her street. Ann is the author of the recipe section of her husband, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn's best-selling book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. She counsels patients along with her husband, helping them to reverse heart disease with plants. This dynamic mother-daughter duo hosts the wildly popular YouTube channel where they cook up delicious plant-based meals and hilarity. You may also know them from their cookbook, Be a Plant-Based Woman Warrior. Jane and Ann, say it with me. Live fierce, stay bold, eat delicious.
Yes. You did a good job. You put your own spin on that, which was nice. It was good.
But I just said to you, I am way more interested in learning about each of you than to talk at all about us.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Boring compared to you two.
If there's ever an example of aging like a badass mother, it's the two of you, your whole family, really, but the two of you as women and inspirations to us. So we want your secrets.
Can you say how old you are, both of you?
I'm 58, and my mom is 30 years older than I am.
88.
Yeah.
88. Amazing. And I'm 55 and Lisa's 60. So Jane and Lisa and I are all close. And then you are showing us, Ann, what we can be.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious to me, like plant-based is a huge part of your health and vitality. But like, I also see, because I've been following you both for a long time, and you've got humor and your physical activity, like you're, pulling the tires and moving your bodies. And then also what I really admire so much too, which is something that a lot of us miss out on, is that your family is very, very close.
That's true. And I feel like that is, I don't know, a special spice. It's a special ingredient that not every family, I think, would function well if they were all together. We crazily won the lottery. That I was saying the other day that I have 3 brothers and myself, so there's 4 of us kids, and we all are married and have children. And we oddly want to get together all the time. And we're a wobbly big group of 20. Grandchildren are pairing up with partners and things. So it's getting a little wobbly, a little bigger. And it's strong and sustainable and supportive. So many other things just fall in place. How lucky to have that.
For people who are still raising children who are listening to this, what do you have, like, what kind of advice do you have about raising children and keeping them cohesive and like a unit like that?
No, I must say, all my life, the one thing that I hoped would happen with our children, that they would be connected to each other always, as they were, kind of getting out of college. And I felt that was so important. And I think that they have done a good job with that.
I first learned about you guys kind of back in 2009 when some friends of mine hosted a vegan potluck and they made the lasagna from the Engine 2 diet. And
That's my husband's recipe. My husband's recipe.
Rip gives Brian credit always.
I lived in Austin. So, that's when I first, heard about it. And I thought I was very interested. And then I lived in Rip's neighborhood and went to his potluck sometimes. But I'm curious, though, because I don't know a lot about your other children. So where did it start? Did it start with Essie?
Yes. The amazing thing is that in 1983-ish, Essie just had decided, he was a general surgeon, and he didn't feel that he was making any difference for breast cancer coming through. And anyway,
he's like a carpenter, just like
he got it. He looked a little global research, saw that in Japan, people didn't have breast cancer. So
epidemiologically, it was pretty clear that it was only in certain places.
So what he did is we started then. We had always been a close family. Everybody went off to college, but it has stuck. It has stuck. And I cannot tell you that we have our 4 children are all, passionately plant-based.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Our daughter-in-law, who is an OB, she is crazily that way. All 10 of our grandchildren are also plant-based. In this book, when I went and asked all of them about being plant-based, my favorite quote was from the then 7-year-old. If you eat meat, you die.
End of conversation.
And I've told you both this before, but I have reversed my heart disease. I have proof from the Cleveland Heart Lab panel. My cholesterol is still high. My LPA is still high, but I have no signs of disease in my body anymore. And I got your first cookbook, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. And every day I just opened it up and I cooked something out of it till I knew what I was doing. And now I have the new cookbook, of course, Be a Plant-Based Woman Warrior. And, I cook, I think about you two every day and your whole family, because you literally all saved my life. So I thank you for that.
You know what? And that's kind of you to say it like the way you did, but that book is out there and anybody can read it. So only those who implement it and comply see results, which is what you've done. So it's such an interesting spinning the locus of control out of the doctor's office and medication and scans and surgeries and interventions and all that stuff to it's all on you. You did it.
Thank you.
I'm realizing, and more now, originally maybe I had the feeling, if you did it, then you would be fine and you could just eat anything. People with heart disease particularly can't stray. They have to stay, and they have to stay pretty tight to reverse heart disease.
When I was working at the Whole Foods Medical Wellness Center, we had those people like Lauren who went all in. And thanks to both of you, and especially Jane, your videos, it made my job easier because I was able to use those tools to educate for them to understand. Like Lauren said in the intro, your video about type 2 diabetes and intramyocellular lipids in the truck and everything, that really spoke to people. So I have to thank you for that. But there were as many, if not more, patients in the clinic who we worked with who really, really struggled. But I have to say, and so it goes beyond just having the tools, right? You have to use the tools. But what I love about what you guys do is you make it so accessible. Your cooking videos, your recipes.
The benefit is that we're not trained chefs. We're just household hacks making it happen. And we're not
like all of us.
Last weekend, Jane has these small groups out at
a lot of small live events, very food focused.
And she pulled out of the oven some Brussels. Her Brussels sprouts are awesome.
I had to prepare 30 recipes for 36 people 30 overnight.
It was crazy.
Oh my gosh.
It was nuts. And so she pulled out these Brussels sprouts, which I really couldn't even tell what they were. And she said, taste it. And I tasted it. And here was this whole audience.
And my mom's like, oh, it's awful. But you know what? People loved them
because they had those expectations.
No, we were like, "This is awful," but I wanted to show you that we usually everything's so perfect in our kitchen,
right?
So I put them out there, gone. Everyone's like, these are delicious. I'm a cracker. And one of my staff members who works all the time with us, she was like, Jane, I've made every recipe in the book. She was one of the recipe testers. She's like, I don't remember this one. I'm like, over marinate the sweet and savory Brussels sprouts.
You know what? But that's the thing. You can't make a mistake when you're cooking because you can usually correct it or whatever, or people will just
choke it down.
No, but don't you find that when you cooked it, you don't mind eating it because you know what's in it and you're okay?
Yes. Yes.
But
to Jane's point, though, it's not like you're like, Julia Child in there with all French techniques. You're like, get some balsamic vinegar, get a roasting pan with some parchment paper. Like, you're making it so easy for the rest of us.
And it wasn't even on the list. Like, this is a bonus recipe and it's horrible. I'm so sorry.
Somebody should hire Jane to be a test taster and a smeller.
My nose can wake me up at night.
Yes. That's how I knew I was pregnant. Like, I couldn't stand the smell of my lipstick all 3 times. I was like,
my favorite food. Yeah. Garlic. I love garlic. But when I was pregnant, I was like, oh,
yeah. It was raw onion.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
I'm getting better. I don't love them. That's so
you don't
funny.
love raw onions?
I don't love raw onions, but I eat them. I put them in salads and everything, but I just, like a raw onion sandwich.
I have to tell you what I was passionate about eating
58 years ago, or 50, who was it with?
56. Liver. I could not get enough liver.
That's my mother's favorite. My mother, if it's disgusting, my mother wants to eat it.
And chicken livers, loved them.
Does your mother eat tongue?
Yes. Yes. I'm not even, they gave it to me when I was a kid. I was like 6 years old. They got it from the Jewish deli down the street and I was eating it. And I was like, Grandma, why does this tongue look like a tongue? Is that why they call it tongue? She's like, just eat it. I'll tell you later. I was like, no.
Oh, man.
Oh,
my mother was from the South and my father was from the Philippines. So we had everything from sweetbreads to pig's ears to tripe around our house. It was gross. When my mom cooked tripe, I had to leave the house. Disgusting.
That's disgusting. Oh my gosh.
I wouldn't eat it. Because Anne, you really didn't, you were older, obviously, when you dove into the whole plant-based style.
When we started doing that, we were in Cleveland. Now, McDougall on the West Coast was doing something, but the West Coast was far away. So we just figured it out. That's what we did. And, I made a lot of things that weren't very good, but we ate them because we did and just learned.
But you stuck with it because?
And, in Cleveland, I was teaching then 6th grade English, and I did a lot of work with vocab. And I remember back then, vocab words that nobody knew were vegan and vegetarian. The world has certainly changed.
So, Lisa, I think what you're getting at is kind of like this, the 3 reasons why I wanted to push to write this book. The first was, this is a tip of the hat to my mom, because she did this, like she just said, in the 80s, pre-internet, no Whole Food market. Right. Cleveland, Ohio, where like the sexiest spice is garlic soap. And they did it when my dad said, hey, pivot. And she was like, okay, with 4 kids. Talk about being out there over your skis and your neighbors thinking that something's wrong. She just did it. And against so many odds. Second is because I feel like women tend to have most of the mental labor around food. What should we grow? What should we harvest? Mm-hmm. What should we put in the cart? What should we put away in the cupboard? What shelf, fridge? How do we prepare it? How and serve it? We have this mental labor around that. No wonder we're like, let's go out to eat.
Yes.
It's just this release valve for all that. But
when people ask us, what is a good restaurant in Cleveland? We don't go.
We're like, go get sushi, but brown rice nori rolls. That's our eating out.
Well, I have very strong feelings around when children start school, just like they have to learn how to read and write and math, they should be learning to cook. Because I think part of the problem is that we're not raised that way, right? We're intimidated and scared of the kitchen.
I had home ec at school. And what I only remember learning how to cook was fudge.
Girls did home ec and boys did wood shop or metal shop, right?
Well, that was such good.
I want to talk about gender in a minute. So anyway, so I feel like the majority of women who are doing the cooking and most of the mental labor around food for their families and communities and themselves if we could just have people eat a few more plants, a little more plants, add more plants, because it doesn't the other stuff, we can turn, and our health outcomes will also take that turn. That's just my hope.
Yeah.
The third reason is just that I have 3 brothers, and we all were, athletes growing up. Like, I was in Olympic trials when I was 14 in swimming, and I got a scholarship to go to University of Michigan, and I am, making NCAAs, and then like my suit doesn't really fit right, and I'm, I have to eat, I have to lift, I have to train, I have to go to school, I have to train again, and I have to eat again. It's just you can't get off that treadmill, or you end up, if you don't make the NCAAs, like, why? Anyway, I couldn't stand what was happening with my brain. Like, get out of my head. I have the brothers. I don't get this food thing. And I knew my brothers who were training at their universities and colleges didn't spend even an iota of a second thinking about food,
so true,
their body, their identity, their performance, and being able to show up as who they feel they are from head to toe around food. But then, right then, somehow, my parents called in and said, "Hey, we're starting to eat. We're not eating any meat or dairy or oil or fat, salt, or sugar." And I'm like, "What's going on?" That's in 1884, actually, when they called. They just had started in the early 80s. And anyway, it took a while to harmonize and get it right. Like, I thought, oh, I'll just eat a dozen bagels and Nutella. It took a while to not have that food head.
That was one of the biggest gifts that eating this way gave to me, because, I always struggled with some vanity pounds, and I lost 20 pounds doing this. I've kept it off. I don't think about it anymore. And it's been 8.5 years, and I can't tell you what a gift that is. You were talking a little bit about how you felt about your body as a teenager. How has that evolved over the years? How do you feel about your bodies now?
When I'm doing a plow
Yoga,
and I see my legs over my head, and I think, who do those legs belong?
I understand.
All I can see is skin that's all, wrinkled, and it doesn't look the same as when your legs are straight.
Yeah,
right. I get that, because I'm getting crepey, and but I have to be like, I have to talk myself down, and I really always, and in yoga especially, I always say I'm grateful for my radiantly healthy, beautiful body with all the things, because thank God I have those 2 legs, and that would be worse. I don't want to learn that lesson. I want to be like, thank God I have these. But I get it. It's hard. You want your skin to stay on your everything, bones. And
I was just, as I'm listening, thinking about, we do have this pressure as women, way more than men. I mean, the images come at us every day in every way. And one of the reasons why Lauren and I started this podcast is because there's like such age discrimination against women. And for me, it's really powerful when women like you can be like, you're living vibrantly because you've made these choices that you don't even have to think about. You eat plant-based, right? It's just become part of your lifestyle. I think those are some of the things like we want to know from you guys.
Well, to tell you the truth, I said, Mommy, will you come over earlier? I want to look over the information about these women and their podcasts. And I love their sort of moxie they're coming in with, and the energy around it. And
I said to Jane, I've already looked them up.
And I was like, I want to read it again. And I'm sitting here eating my cereal that she has every day that's made her be just like, she's like a bundle of stem cells. She's just oats and greens and mushrooms and nutritional yeast and all these spices and turmeric and kale and artichoke and just everything your body wants to be supple and delicious all day. And so I'm eating the cereal, and I was like, you know what? I really am excited to talk to these women, and I'm excited about their podcast. And I love the moxie, the energy behind it. The one thing I have a problem with is I don't think about or wear or use the word age. Like, we're not aging like badasses. We're living like badasses. She's never, ever worn makeup. I don't own makeup. My kids haven't had for Halloween. Look, come here. This is what we look like.
You are gorgeous.
Look at your skin. It's incredible.
You both are.
No, what I'm saying is because this is all we serve up to people.
Right.
Like, this is the burnt Brussels sprouts. Like, you look great. Are you guys twins? I'm like, no, she's in her 80s and I'm still in my 40s. Whatever. It's been great because like I don't dye my hair. I love having lightning hair. I love it. So this is who we are. We're living with confidence, head to toe. We're not changing a darn thing about the pigment, the shape, the size of who we are, and comfort with our bodies. Just using them every day is something that we totally do because it feels good, not out of a vanity sort of thing.
Right.
And that makes you feel good about yourself, which I guess might feel me. I'm not saying that we're not vain or whatever, but I'm just trying to say is like, I had a really hard time with the word age like a badass. It made her not want to do your podcast at first. She's like, oh, interest. And I was like, listen, I read this stuff. They seem really interesting. And they're just talking about how we live. If you were two men and you had the same energy and the same awesome approach to life, you would not call this how to age like a badass. You'd be like, hey, let's live with some badassery. Not the word age. Like we could have this whole podcast, take the word age out and say live.
Live.
Well, the reason why, though, honestly, is we call ourselves the anti-aging podcast. So really, it was a call to, like, I hate the whole anti-aging movement.
Jane's all right. I'm just saying.
She likes to be contrarian to everything I say.
No. I think that's a brilliant talk that Jane just gave. And I totally agree.
You're like,
I'm just saying that
Schwarzenegger would like,
if somebody says, how old are you? I don't mind responding.
Right. Schwarzenegger has a book out and he's like got a gray grizzled beard and it says close his face and just, it was hair darkness. I don't even know. But like, it's looking at like, he's kind of, I mean, Arnold can look polished and, you know, we've all seen him be wheeled up or whatever, but he looks kind of grizzled and he's like getting, you know, props for that. We got to own the same comfortable territory. There's 20 in our family, so her 10 grandchildren. If we can help the women and the men, if we can help all understand that this is normal, then we're going to help them want to be with partners and spouses who look like, not us, but like, you know, real selves, true selves. It's easy to live this way, self.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot because there is, again, it gets back to the pressure on women to look a certain way and the procedures that women feel compelled to do, the fad diets all the time, when what we are really trying to establish here and why we wanted you both on so desperately is because of everything you're saying. It's about the way you live and eat. You don't have to think about it. It's second nature, but it's not the norm. And we do want this to be the norm. We want you to be the norm. I like the idea of crossing out the word age and putting live like a badass mother for our podcast. We may have to change it.
We're going to be,
I like that.
Yes, I think we are be consulting with Jane.
But it really is about the anti-aging though. Like I feel like, you know how like you have to grab attention, like with a lot of the plant-based world, we're doing it for health. A lot of us, not for weight loss, but weight loss is one of those things that's very sexy. Everybody wants to lose weight. And a lot of people truthfully do need to, but like I have a problem because of our diet culture having weight loss as a goal. Oftentimes when I'm coaching people, like I want them to be eating this way for health and the healthy weight will come naturally. So it's kind of like the same with aging. Like it's not about anti-aging. It's like embracing our aging because we can't avoid it. Right. So that's kind of like where we're coming from.
No, I know exactly where you're coming from. I mean, I'm a 50-year-old woman in America. I've always said to my kids, like, I love my wrinkles, you know, like all these smiles. And so like, so it's doing reps, like just say it once. I love my wrinkles. I love them. I love them. Like it's all the love and the fear, the worry and the of you. This is hard. This is my map of my love with you guys. And really I love it. And, you know, I know my kids, like, I know I look at my mom and all I want to see is just all that she is. And I say,
well, you know, Jane, I think because you wanted to do this interview, had me listen to, I don't watch a lot of podcasts. I don't wear things in my ears that
headphones,
not a hearing aid. I like the world, but Jane Fonda.
No, Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah.
They said, have you had facial whatever? And she said, that is one thing I regret.
Yeah. I heard that, you know, and it's so interesting. And the other thing that I loved, and Lisa and I have talked about this, is Jane Fonda said that she's in the third act of her life.
I love that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I love that.
And you know, you're going to be in your fourth act of your life.
I don't feel any different than I felt when I was 50, except I don't jump like I can't jump rope as well. I can't leap as
You know, Jane, I wanted to really talk to you because I think that's one thing that people sometimes struggle with when they age is their sex life.
We've got to get to the clitoris.
I want to be a member of the clitorati. How do I do it?
Talk to us about that.
When I heard that there were 10,000 nerves in the clitoris, like 10K, and there's only 4K in the penis, I need to have a 10K for the 10K. We need to get this to be part of the conversation. We need to elevate this to be normalized, that we have this. We have 2.5 times the capacity for pleasure than men have. And this whole world is so focused on, I mean, there's movies called Get Hard.
Right.
Like rated PG. Everyone just see it. But no one's saying get lubricated.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's
Yes.
the 50-50 of the world, the yin yang. You could have 3 brothers growing up. And Steve, you don't always trying to be on equal sides of the equation, or in the Title IX era, try being an athlete.
Yes.
So this whole thing about grabbing a 10K for the 10K, I really wanted to focus on the clitoris and not like a diamond shape, like an ovoid, like here's the vagina. That's the target for penile pleasure.
Yeah.
It's not so many, I mean, 2/3 to 3/4 of women do not experience pleasure with penetrative sex. So
Right.
3/4 of us aren't accessing our 10K, which is there. So I made hats and headbands that say 10K for the 10K, and they're covered in polka dots to represent the polka dot of pleasure. And when you got one of these headbands or hats, I said, please gather on 10/10 on October 10th with your friends, your clitorati, and discuss these 10 questions. And I had 10 questions that people could talk about. And I had sort of a pilot study with our neighborhood.
Yeah.
With these great women I've grown up with. Like I've been here since I was born. And so we had this great group of different age women, and it was just so fun to have this 10K for the 10K. And the 10K means like you can go for a walk together for 10,000 steps, literally just 10 people walking for 10 minutes together. And every step represents a nerve for pleasure in women. We chose to sit together for 10,000 seconds, which was for 2.5 hours or something. But I have one of my friends played croquet for the 10K, croquet for the 10K, which was...
Ooh, I like that. Croquet. Yeah, I was very sad when I saw that I'd missed it. So are you good? Is it going to be a yearly
event?
event?
It's an ongoing campaign, and it's an ongoing campaign. If you're interested, I should actually...
Yes. We can put it in the show notes.
I'll have to put a way for people to keep accessing, because the 3 people who discovered this 10,000 nerves were a gynecologist, a plastic surgeon, and a gender-affirming surgeon, because they were doing work on female bodies. So they had to map out all the nerves and how they're innervated, because they'd never done that. Whoever they is, had never done that. We have Viagra commercials on Monday night, Thursday night, and that's been so normalized. Male pleasure, keep the pleasure going, keep the pleasure going. We're not even having pleasure.
It's so crazy. So there's really been no research.
And I had someone wrote me back, and when I posted this on my social media, someone said, your cookbook is in the trash.
What?
Mm-hmm. I don't touch that kind of stuff, because the community takes care. Someone's like,
sure,
sounds like you need to get in touch with your polka dot.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's a whole other conversation about our puritanical society and patriarchy and all of the above, and why we don't have more comfort around conversations about our sex organs and pleasure and women, you know?
Well, I have a question about my sex organ and my pleasure. So I haven't gone through menopause yet, but I feel like I had the first sign. I had like a little warm flash the other day, and my period is getting lighter. But I feel like it is harder for me to have an orgasm. And also I feel like this is very personal, but I feel like I need to share this because other people might be having this situation. But so I feel like it's harder for me to have an orgasm, and then like we'll get the vibrator, and then so I feel like I'm breaking my vagina. Am I breaking my vagina by giving it too much stimulation, or what?
Jane Fonda has a really good new vibrator.
That's Frankie and
that's Frankie and Grace.
Oh yes, Gracie and
love
Frankie.
that.
Yes, their vibrator. I love that.
I know, because she has it, because in the show they did it.
Oh God. Okay. So why is it harder? Why is it harder for me? And what am I breaking my vagina with my vibrator?
Okay, a couple things. And I'm pretty sure I'm in menopause, but and it's just, I don't really have any symptoms, which is
Right.
And so the estrogen that's in my body is coming from like what's left in our bodies that makes estrogen, which is not your ovaries after a while. It's some of your fat cells. I mean, you have to have fat cells on your body.
Right.
I mean, it's healthy to have fat cells. And so that makes a little estrogen, but it's not, it's mellowed out. And like you, I occasionally have a little warm wind. I'd be like, is that
warm? It happened to me once. I'm like, oh, that's it.
Like it's just a warm wind, like a little zephyr, which is kind. And it has not been disruptive of anything. So, but I would not ever put menopause in the way of having pleasure. The number one sex organ in your body is your brain. Emily Nagoski, Come As You Are. Please, every human on earth, read that or listen to it or both. And they talk a lot about spontaneous desire and responsive desire. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're so busy and we're so distracted and we have so much going on that we don't often feel like spontaneous desire. I mean, maybe if we're, 15, 16, like, oh my God.
You guys don't schedule it?
No, so we had to schedule it. You have to schedule, like, put in the bid, like, hey, is this get things going? And then you strip a wire and if you're in a loving relationship and you can get going there, like you never regret getting going because you can get
exactly.
Responsive desire happens.
100%.
So responsive desire may not be 100% when you're trying to get it over the hedge when you're like, okay, just not there yet. Things aren't all the way down there yet for whatever reason. So try to make sure that you're like in the headspace that you are interested, because if you're not, I mean, sometimes you can't get there for whatever reason. Like what's happening around the world is really disturbing and it's distracting. And some people can let go of that and go with it. But some people just, things live right here on their minds. So the other thing is when you say, am I breaking my vagina? I certainly hope that the usage of whatever people are using, because there's different shapes and sizes and textures and things, but it is not your vagina where the nerves are. So when you say vagina, are you talking about your vulva and your clitoris? Let's use
my clitoris. It has a little thing.
Yeah. The clitoris is kind of, it's almost like a sundial. Like sometimes it likes it here, sometimes it likes it here, sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just not lubed enough. And sometimes, it's kind of a moving target as my sex ed.
Yeah. I guess I shouldn't say I'm having a harder time. I think it's changed. It has changed more to the outside than the inside, more to the clitoris. I think I used to be able to have like more of a vaginal orgasm, like what you're talking about. And now has to be on the outside a little, on the clitoris.
And hang in there a little longer because it's the blood flow coming back there, and then the vaginal orgasm, which
it happens, but it takes longer.
Takes a little longer, and you got to get a little bit more in that. It's almost like meditating. It gets a little bit deeper.
Okay, I got to meditate.
It's interesting listening to y'all because I'm pretty sure I'm post-menopause. I'm 60 this year, and my husband and I have the best sex life we ever had. But to Jane's point, I think has more to do with the no inhibitions. You know what I mean? Just like we know each other so well, we're comfortable. But if I were watching the news, I wouldn't be able to. You do have to be in the right headspace. So, but I do think that it has to do with the just being free and not feeling self-conscious.
Yeah, and like if some people have a dog that can be like barking, or the kids are home or
watching.
Right.
Yeah.
So and so at least that's why I said some people have the best sex life of their lives. Fertility is not an issue, and there's no barriers, there's no concern. It's just
there's so many things. I feel like we're gonna have you on again and again and again to address them all. Okay, so walk through your day with us. What time do you get up? Do you have breakfast?
They're never the same.
Oh, I get up.
Some things are the same. Do you don't get up the same time every day? What time do you wake up in the morning?
Pretty much 6:30ish to 7.
Okay.
I'm between probably 7 and 8:30. Depending on how much my body wants to sleep, and I feel lucky that I can listen to my body and let it sleep.
Right.
Okay, good. That's a good tip. Listening.
And
to your body.
do you eat breakfast every day and exercise every day?
So important. It's
you eat your oats.
Me, I went through years and years of no breakfast, leftovers. I love leftover salad. And now I eat a breakfast that I feel gives me important things for life. However, I had a little crazy thing that went on. We got a Peloton because our son Ted was just so passionate about it, and he thought my husband would love it. And so there was fun. I didn't do anything about it. And then it was on sale, and so I got it at Christmas, and it sat there. He wasn't interested in it, and I wasn't interested. And I finally, Jane had a conference, has this women's conference in March. Our daughter-in-law, Polly, is wonderful. She ended up with the last speaker. And she said, you have to do something for 40 days to make it stick. So I decided that I would ride the Peloton for 40 days. She also said, I called her when I said I was going to do that. She said, but text me every day after you've done it. And so for 40 days, for 20 minutes, I got on the Peloton, at least 20 minutes, text her every day. And then after about the 20th day, the 20th day, I said, Polly, why 40 days? And she said, it's the power of the universe. And
it's a sacred number. It comes up in all kinds of traditions, and you seem to have the universe behind you.
And so
I love it.
Anyway, I kept on, and when I finally stopped, I thought, I don't have to do it. And the next day, I waited a little, and then I thought, no, I'm going to do it. And so I have done it. So when Jane was about to talk about my breakfast, so sometimes my breakfast is later than it used to be because I exercise.
Did you do the Peloton?
And I not necessarily I also do maybe an hour of various other things.
But it's just oats and kale and mushrooms and...
Oh, the savory oats.
Yes.
Do something for 40 days and it's yours.
Yes. And you saying, occasionally I'll call my mom and like, hey, I'm heading to the store. Do you want anything, or do you want to go together? Because we go together all the time. It's so fun to go to the store.
Sure. I love that. I do that with my daughter, Jane. My daughter is Jane, and she loves to go to the store with me.
Oh, yes. You probably buy all the food for her, right?
Yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah, she often buys it for me. Anyway, so I'll call it, and it's like 11:30 or something. And she's like, well, I just having breakfast. So it's not like she wakes up and has it. But you said our days are like, I don't work in like a 9 to 5 or whatever. Our life is kind of like a snake eating an egg. Like we had an event last weekend. So I was up all week long up before getting so many things dialed in. Like I had to make
flirty recipes.
Well, I had to make like the Lucky Nuts and then have them, get them, cool them, freeze them, and then make the amaretto chocolate cherry nut hazelnut scones ahead of time, cool them, freeze them, and you're making for three dozen of all this stuff. And then you can shop for that stuff over the weekend. But then during the week, okay, let's get the potatoes and get that all dialed in and get those ready and get Hasselbacked and all these things you have to do to food. And then the next day, get all the fresh stuff. And then the final day, like the cilantro and the berries and the things that are really fragile. So you're just organizing and prepping and storing and laying out and printing up and, I mean, name tags. It's just, it's like having a wedding whenever we have events. So there's a lot that goes into that. And so we'll have those events. And then we go my brother has events twice a year, every year in March around the International Day of the Woman, which is March 9th or March 8th. Sorry. I have an event. So I've had the event for the last almost 10 years, and it's never been on the 8th. It's been on like the 7th, it's been the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. It's just never been the 8th itself. I can't wait I think next year it's going to be.
I've been to your event and it's amazing. And you guys worked so hard and you did a cooking demo. And of course it was hilarious. And of course food fell on the floor and you're like, oh, I know my mom's going to pack this up for my dad to take it on the plane. And she did. It fell on the floor and she's packing it up for Essie to take on the plane because he had to go somewhere.
Were you there when she took the salad dressing and she was shaking it and the lid flew off and it went all over the carpeted stage of the Cleveland Clinic Wellness Institute?
I can't remember. Oh my God. It might have been. I remember things were definitely on the floor. But I mean, that's life, It's always like that.
Keeping it real.
I think that if I were working and I was getting up to go to work at 6:30 or 7, I would have a good breakfast before. I mean, I think that is a key thing, and it is. I think you should find a breakfast that you like, that's nutritious and right, and eat it every day. I mean, I just feel like that. If you don't do it, I mean, oats have got benefits that nothing else has. You know, toast, which is stupid. And I mean,
no, and I know, like, I'm an RN, and I remember when I was in all those years of nursing school and doing rounds and being in my rotations, I had to take, you know, have breakfast and take lunch. And like because your body, if you wake up at 3 a.m. and have a sandwich every day, your body's going to want to wake up at 3 a.m. and have a sandwich. But so I had to get dialed into that kind of schedule. But nowadays, you know, we write cookbooks. We have YouTube. Like, so our YouTube shoots, like that's a buildup of days. So we are just event schedule dependent. And right now we are with you because we have a down week this week.
Oh, we're so lucky.
So grateful. Oh my gosh. I just can't tell you how appreciative we are of both of you.
You guys having this conversation about how to live like a badass. I learned from the original badass herself.
She is a badass. She is. Do you have anything else before
that we haven't already discussed?
Yeah.
You've just got to keep moving. Eating plant-based and exercising.
Yeah, I mean, like our rotator cuffs just turn into like old leather belts. Like they're going to snap, they're going to hurt, they're going to break. But we can figure things out. Like I've seen the importance of having, like, my parents move with comfort and mobility. And sometimes it's been really helpful to have, you know.
Well, and I think that adaptability, I think what I'm hearing from you both is you really listen to what your body is needing. Like in terms of, am I hungry? I'm going to have some breakfast. I maybe can't do that same activity I did before, or maybe 20 minutes on the Peloton is fine. So just not forcing it, right? It sounds like you're both a little just more listening.
I don't think hunger has a thing to do with eating breakfast. I'm never hungry, but I eat breakfast. Now that I'm doing this exercise first, sometimes my breakfast is at 10:30.
Some people need to. They wake up starving, and I hate even letting talk. I don't like talking about the time that we eat the day because people think that we're like, oh, are you a 16-hour intermittent faster? Are you a 10-10-20? I'm like, we don't count calories. We don't count servings. We don't wear watches. We don't count steps. We don't.
Somebody gave me one of those step counting watches, and I turned out to be allergic to them.
Really?
I'm allergic to them too here.
That's so funny. I turned off the step counting thing on my phone. I'm like, you don't need to know how much I'm walking. I'm walking plenty. I'm with you. You know, I try to get enough sleep, but sometimes I sleep longer. I'm lucky that I can sleep till I wake up, and, you know, I eat when I'm hungry. And I try to, I definitely am trying to be better about listening to the little voice in my head and the, you know, listening to myself for advice. I think that is the beautiful thing that comes with living for a longer time. I love that.
I would say you two are living well.
You guys doing this together, what you're doing here, this project together, is such joy and it's going to give you a great lens to look through. My mom always talks about having a lens through which she looks to see life and what gives her a purpose.
No,
with that.
You two remind me, at one of Jane's she has a camp in the summer.
Yes, plant-based warriors, yo.
And 2 women at this camp, and they were 80, and they lived in Canada, but they were in different provinces, and they had this thing that they did every morning before they made their beds. They each did it wherever they lived, and they did it. They would.
It's Zach Bush's exercise. You know Zach Bush's exercise?
Yeah.
And they did it every day. And it was so cute, but it is such a cool thing, something like that. And you two made me think of those 2 women.
Oh,
we'll do it.
Yeah, let's start doing that.
Yeah, let's start doing that.
Zach Bush exercises. But one thing I want to say that I think was really an enlightening thing to do recently for me is that, you know, our book came out and things went well. I mean, we were so lucky. New York Times bestseller. In March, I started trying to learn to play the guitar. I mean, my mind was suddenly just like, it blew up. And now I'm at a plateau, and I'm like, I'm not doing as much, but I listened to all the music from my childhood, and I was like, I can't believe, and I went to my grunge phase again.
What's the first song you learned to play on the guitar?
It was an Indigo Girls. It's the lesbian ballad of Strange Fire. it's a lot of A's, E, A, E, A, E, A, E. I figured out, and I can play it with my husband. My husband loves Indigo Girls also, so he's like, "This is a great one. Let's play this one."
You learn like A, E, G,
Yeah.
B. Like you can play every song in the songbook, right?
Doing bar chords, I cannot figure it out. My fingers are long. I can't get it.
You have good guitar hands.
That's so good.
So what's the next event that you're promoting then? Would that be in
We have our camp for plant-based women warriors, June 6th, 7, 8, 9. That's up and ready to go.
People love that.
It's just fun. It's just a ton of fun. We have an improv class, but we don't call it improv. We call it how to improvise. And the teacher is amazing. She's like, all day long, you're always improvising. I mean, you're improvising all the time.
I really appreciate you, especially coming on when you were hesitant to do it. And
Absolutely.
you helped so many people today. You guys are amazing.
Stay plant-based women warriors. Stay bold and eat delicious.
And live like a badass mother.